Well, greetings everybody, and welcome to this this year. Sorry, this week's edition. Feels like it, doesn't it? This week's edition of the Inworld Review. This is a program where we look at people, places, and arts, and all sorts across the Hypergrid. For those of you who don't know what the Hypergrid is, it actually connects all the major virtual worlds, which we call them grids, and they're also most of them are authored with OpenSim variant software. And the OpenSim software, the platform is where the engine allows all these worlds to connect together. So that instead of just teleporting around the grid, the world you're in, you can actually jump between worlds. So you can jump to a whole different world, and then with your avatar and your assets, and then you can jump on that world to an individual club or somewhere you want to go to. So it takes something like it's our old cousin, basically, Second Life. It takes the concept of Second Life and multiplies it infinitely, because Second Life is just one closed grid, whereas all the grids here are open and connected. So it makes it bigger and better and wilder and smarter and everything else like that, really. Right. Okay, so that's what we do here. My name is Mal Burns, and I'm joined in the studio here. On my right, I have my right-hand man, he who sits and he who fiddles with knobs. In other words, the audiovisual wizard known as James Atlloud. Welcome, James.
Oh, thanks, Mal. I was just at a fan conference with lots of wizards, so I'm in good company.
Oh, must tell us about that, maybe.
No, maybe not.
maybe not. Fair enough.
Right.
Okay, and on my left, my wonderful co-host, who's I'm really so glad to see her this week, because she was out of action for Safari on Wednesday. But more importantly, we're all a bit worried because she lives in Spain, and not too far away from those awful floods we've been seeing and everything. So glad she is safe and sound and here again today. It's lovely. Tosha, Ryran.
Well, thank you, Mel. I'm really glad I could be here today too. And actually, I have my head a little bit very much set in RL for some organizing some help and stuff for the Valencia region, which is really not far away from here. And that um, weather that caused the flooding has also had repercussions here, so that I was exactly the night of the safari, all night long, the very longest, blackest, loneliest night. I had no TV, I had no internet, I had no telephone, and many hours during the night I didn't even have electricity. So it was really weird.
And the
But
last thing
now
you
I'm back to light and TV and
or
smartphone and internet and everything.
wonderful. Is that the last thing you needed on that night was Halloween 2?
Yeah,
Definitely
exactly.
dark and the spooks come out, but yeah. It's now, yeah, I must say I'm not a huge fan of Halloween. And in fact, as a child in Britain, we didn't have it. At this point in time, we're 2 days away from what we used to call bonfire night or fireworks night, where, contrary to opinion, we didn't actually celebrate Guy Fawkes. We were remembering his failed attempt to blow up Parliament. Some would argue that the failure was a failure, but but so many people think we're celebrating something, and we're celebrating the failure to blow up Parliament as opposed to the success of it. Anyway, but these days Halloween is prevalent in Britain and probably Europe and everywhere else. Yeah, but probably, but the origins aren't particularly American, apparently. But I mean, I imagine it's an American cultural thing, and it's in this international age of communication. It's kids in the UK turn on an American program, they see kids celebrating Halloween and think, oh, well, we got to do that. And so they do. So that's life. Anyway, all the spooks and little things. Those of you actually, you'll probably be grateful that we had about 1 million bats flying around the set here actually before we came on, but we've removed them because we know some of our viewers are a bit delicate. But there are the remains of various Halloween things floating around the studio here, so little set pieces around, which will be gone by next week. But technically, Halloween's over. But in virtual worlds, the exact date of Halloween means nothing. They start celebrating in July in some places, the big lead up. the one night at the end of October. So I think going 2 days over, I think we can be forgiven for that. I even thought I picked up earlier some fireworks to raise, but they didn't arrive in my suitcase, or rather, they didn't come back with me. Some other things did, but of course, they're oh, right, okay. I'll just interrupt to say we've also got Pet Love Pet Shop in the studio here, but she's just running off for about 10 minutes. So she'll stay sat here, but we'll introduce her more formally when she goes back.
Thank you, Mal. I'll be right back.
Okay, lovely. Welcome, Pet Love. Okay, so what was I saying? Oh, yes. For those in Britain, Tuesday, of course, is firework night, the bonfire night, or Guy Fawkes night, whatever you want to call it. But the real fireworks will probably be happening after midnight, because that's the time Americans will be, election results will be pouring in. And if we can survive the English firework night and then stay up all night, we might have some idea of what's going on. But I wonder whether if they're talking about it a knife edge sort of thing. I worry about the results, whoever wins. But if it is that close, maybe we won't even know by morning. Maybe it will take several days to actually finally vote.
Certainly, it'll take several days. Yeah, but
yeah,
I'm feeling pretty good about my candidate of choice. So I think it's going to go well for the country.
I
hope so, James. I really hope so.
Oh, I think the world does. Yeah,
because that orange guy would be a disaster for the United States and for the rest of the world.
Fear the orange. Fear the orange.
I thought it was known as urine color.
Urine color.
Described him as urine colored hair. I mean, quite seriously, I didn't make that up. I thought that was the official color. Anyway, there's an interesting orange there, so be it. Yeah, whatever your preferred candidate, I don't think I've actually met anybody whose preferred candidate is any different from everybody else's preferred candidate. In fact, I wonder where the urine colored guy has.
I actually know a few, Mal, and so it's the polls aren't entirely wrong, but I think the polls in the United States are they're being so cautious because they've been so wrong in the past 2 presidential elections, and I think they're still just not right.
Well, the main thing that was noticeable to me was that one day they say Harris is way front, she caught up, and the next day they say, ooh, Harris has fallen back and it's Trump again. And then I noticed, because I don't know very well the American press, so I noticed that depends on what newspaper you follow, or what media you follow. It's either the one or the other, and and in the end, it goes changing all the time.
Yeah. The problem is, the media does not like a bad news day. So they need the news to be different every day. So it's one candidate one day, one candidate the next. That's the way they keep it top of the news. If it was the same candidate every day, it wouldn't be news.
And one thing that worries me lately a lot too is that, at least this in the German and the Spanish news, they keep saying that if Trump should not win, I mean, if he should lose, that there will be an uproar, and that there will be a lot of violence in the country. And the violence itself doesn't really, I don't know if it will come about or not, but the news about it, the constantly repeating it, that might scare a lot of people of voting for Harris, So that is, and I think that is the intention of this news also,
Yeah, I've heard that quite a bit. Just interviews with people on the street that Channel 4 News has been doing. I mean, there's, I'm a Trump one, Harris, no choice. And then other people say, who are you voting for? And they say, I don't know, I'm scared. Quite literally, that's the answer. Because they think if they vote for Trump, they'll be safe if he comes into power. But if they vote against him, they'll be his enemy when he comes into power. He'll want to imprison everybody who voted against him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because of this sort of fascistic attitude he's got, and that that's the thing, I guess, that I guess it's the scary thing. And I say, as an observer, I mean, I think America's been on verge of civil war in many ways ever since the January last year thing. No, I can say last year, it's 4 years ago, isn't it? The other thing, of course, is unlike here, where a new government takes, a new prime minister walks into Downing Street the next morning. America, you're going to go through this whole thing, November, December, January, before the actual winner walks into the White House. And that's also going to be a very fragile time. If Trump loses, he's got that 2 months to say, yeah, I've got to recount, and, this is wrong and whatever. But if he wins, he can be, he's got half the population nearly, we assume, supporting him. He can
it's really hard to tell, because the claims of all the people who read early polls are just that, they're early polls, and we put a lot of credence into that, and we listen to people threaten to rampage if he loses. But talk is cheap. I mean, there will be a few trash can fires, and maybe some electrical outages, but in the long run, I think things will calm down, if it even gets as bad as that we're afraid of. But we're not really afraid of that as much as I think some people would like us to be. But it's hard to say,
If there's nothing else in that 3 months, I mean, you will know who the new president is, so that the incumbent can actually possibly make moves to dampen any problems before they happen. But I don't know.
What really surprises me a lot is that to put into question the handing over of the political power from one president to the other, one government to the other, whatever you mean, that is putting into question the very basics of democracy.
Exactly, and that's the real threat.
People do not realize that what they are doing, and I've been writing the other day on some Facebook page an article about that. They should look. Why don't they look at Germany? What happened to us? It was exactly the same. The Hitler guy also was elected democratically, and he had more or less the same kind of words that he used, the way to express himself, the way to put down the opponent and everything, and not see them as political opponents. That doesn't mean that they are enemies right away. But in Germany, they did do exactly that. And what happened then, everybody knows. Not only the concentration camps with more than 6 million deaths in there within those few years. Also, the war with more than 50 million of death, and all these things we know. Come to ask us if you want to know what happens if you vote for somebody, if you elect somebody like Trump. We know, and we fear it and we hate it,
That's from your lips to God. That's just the truth, I mean, Trump quotes Hitler. He's an avid reader of Hitler. It's been known, and hopefully the country has more sense. That's all you can hope.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Because the time I spent in America, all the people I met there, and I got friends to be, well, of course I did not meet everybody, but all the people that I met, they were reasonable, they were solid, they were good people,
I don't think anybody, has anything against the American people because they're politicians. It'd be like saying, you're anti-Israel because of its current government. It's not can't make those comparisons. But it's odd. I mean, there's also the Electoral College, which seems to have far more weight than it should do in a democracy.
Yeah, that's a controversy too.
After the votes. And in Britain, I've certainly Liberal Democrats, who I tend to favour, have always wanted proportional representation for decades now. The idea being that every single person's vote counts, and you get so many each candidate gets so many, party rather gets so many millions of votes, and it would be more evenly distributed. So a small party which actually earns quite a lot of votes but doesn't actually get many seats. And the irony is actually after our last election, people like me who've been up to wanting proportional representation, I'm actually quite relieved we haven't got it. Because if we did have it, the Reform Party actually got enough votes to be the second powerful party. As it is, they're a small party with only a few seats. But the actual number of votes they got made them come second to Labour. So, it really would make a difference if every individual had an electronic button and a single electronic vote that counted. So in a way, we're saved by this first past the post system, which is ironic because I've opposed it all my life.
I think the other step into autocracy is such a funny one, and it's so emotional. And I saw a cartoon that I really liked the other day. It was a man standing in the middle of the aisle of a jet aircraft saying to the people, the pilots really lost touch with who we are and what we want. Who votes for me to take over the plane? I mean, politicians are experienced, educated people who know their jobs. And this what's going on now is not good.
Well, and what I must admit, I had no very good idea about the American election system. That is so strange. That seems almost medieval. Like I don't know. It's not.
Yes,
It's not really so democratic, really.
Right.
I mean, it must have. It probably was, in Mills. In 1700 was about good when all the delegates of the different states had to go ride in horseback to Washington D.C. to elect the president. But nowadays it's just completely strange, the state that wins the party that wins in one state gets all the delegates. All.
For some states. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, well, all except for 2.
Yep.
So that means all, That seems really strange to me, that, why the hell do you make such an effort to elect and to talk about democracy when in the end one wins and he takes
so
them
true.
all,
You're
the winner
absolutely
takes
right.
it all.
Yep.
Yep.
That is the way it is.
I was told, the other thing is, and this is not so much the case as in America, but even in Britain it is the case, and that is the lobbying system. Both these candidates need a hell of a lot of money to put on the show to get elected.
Oh yeah.
And quite frankly, I think it's one of the big tobacco companies at one point sort of gave a few billions, right, to one candidate, and then they gave the same amount to the other candidate. And asked to justify that, they said, "Well, we want whoever wins to be in debt to us so that we get our way." Which, when you think about it, somebody pays £1 million to Harris, £1 million to Trump for, to make sure that the legislation doesn't put their taxes up or something, And it doesn't matter who wins; they've been paid off. The money is flown, it's like a different undercurrent to the actual election itself.
And that's true too. And there is talk, although nobody's listening, but there shouldn't be money involved in politiqueering, if I can use that as a word. There should be no money involved. It has to be more based on their performance, on who likes what, and who gets what votes. And maybe an advertising budget that the government should cover, just to keep so that people can't influence people who are running.
Yeah, but I think
It's rotten.
that was the basic idea in when they thought about it all. That reminds me of the German Constitution. When they wrote the Constitution in 47, I think it was 1947, they also decided that the income of the politicians, of the parliamentaries, it's called, yes, it should be at a pretty high level so that they cannot be corrupt. There is no reason to get corrupt. Well, they are corrupt all the same, only
just
at a
get more
much
money.
higher level.
There's more greedy,
And I think the more money somebody has, the more he gets greedy for more.
Yeah.
And then the corruption, well, of course, it has to go into the unmeasurable,
I remember when we were in the middle of lockdown and COVID, our Prime Minister was the clown, Boris. He didn't do bad. And Rishi Sunak has just lost, left government. People alive and with support when they couldn't go out of the house and work, But the odd thing is, only now some of the really the nice guy politicians, with the thought of the nice guys doing the right thing, they were making a fortune out of COVID. They were running around like chickens in the background, bringing up all their friends who owned corporations and say, "Oh, we need what do we call it? Medical protection, this, and we need this and this in bulk, and they weren't putting it out to tender. They were actually getting in touch with all their buddies in big business to make sure they can get some manufacturing going quick so that they can make money out of it. And the people that paid were the taxpayers because the National Health Service was buying up all this, I forget what they call it now, P2P or something, with public money. And because of the urgency, they were paying any price they were asked. And the people doing the asking were big corporations who were setting the price. And those big corporations, their major shareholders were the politicians. It's a circle, and you just think
Money is a disease. It's a real disease.
It's funny. There's lots of this might lead up into a bit of talk we have later, but I mean, there's lots of talk about alternative forms of not only money but democracy and stuff in the future. It's almost as if democracy has worn itself out. It doesn't mean anything we would.
There are so many people. I don't think it was designed for the numbers of people we have on the planet. Maybe that's the problem.
Yeah,
who knows?
It's also, we all thought the internet would be democratize everything, and it hasn't, because the people who shout loudest to the worst of people are the ones who get heard. And suddenly we got the internet as we're now walking through a world full of artificial things, lies, untruths. You can't tell whether something's real or not real, and you're getting the big social networks are running people's lives, because they're feeding you. You've got a feedback loop on your own data, which they've
been brainwashing our young for about 50 years.
But
they're helplessly lost.
It's been never thought about in the days when the internet was just beginning, and I suppose it's like idealism in the 60s or something. 20, 30 years later, the residue is still there, and you think, "Oh, we won." In fact, it's sort of business just gets in there and takes over. It's almost like any change that's going, somebody's going to create a business out of it. And the very idea of business is to make money, and so on and so forth, until you're manipulating electorates. So, but it's actually quite fascinating because for once on this show, right, we normally refer to the other place, right? But I'm going to refer to that other place this week anyway as our cousin. Because the Hypergrid and the OpenSIM is one full new frontier, right? But it all began as a kind of offshoot, only a kind of offshoot, of a big closed walled garden city, if you like. And that walled garden was then and is now known as Second Life. And for a long time, we referred to it almost naively as, the beginning of the metaverse. But of course, with the walled garden, you have no metaverse. It was OpenSIM that actually, broke down the walls and actually formed a system of connectivity. But even here, even out here, we've got businesses and things. We've got people who start grids and they want to be, imitations of Second Life. They're on the hypergrid for convenience, but they still like to think of themselves as the biggest, the best, and the only one. And we want to round people up to join our sim. Even though grid rather, even though of course they can then jump to other grids to buy stuff and stuff. So it's still very flexible, but that attitude of trying to monopolize bits of it is still there. I'm not going to mention any names, especially out here on OpenSim, but there are a few newcomers here now who are making quite an impact. But you can sense a strategic monopolization in their attitude. They want to grab and enclose a lot of things that are already here on the hypergrid into their grid. And one of the joys has always been, communication on the hypergrid here may not be the best because there's so many hundreds of worlds you can search forever to find things. But the fact that there is so much out there, is its beauty. And the last thing you want is to somebody come along and try and centralize what is a decentralized system. And sometimes you have to, if you want a search engine and things like that is truly independent, you've got to centralize some kind of information so that the search engine can give you results. We looked last week at a site where you can look up goods and services around the hypergrid, and it would then find the actual location of a store and which grid it's on, that you can actually teleport and go and buy it or get it or whatever the thing is. And recently, and I say until recently, until the last few days really, the founder of Second Life, Philip Rosedale, had been running, amongst his many other projects, a thing called Fair Share. And it was really about a new democratization of money. Philip's always been very keen on simulating things, not just virtual worlds, but actually modeling concepts. And, he did a lot of modeling on concepts like money distribution and the accumulation of wealth and things. And he's always cited, his world that he founded, Second Life, as the Linden dollar being a real model for a different type of monetary system, albeit the fact that at some point it has to connect to the real world so you can pay in or cash out. The big news, literally midweek this week, it kept under wraps very strictly for a while, was that Philip has now returned after, I'm trying to think what it is, must be 10 years or something, since he left Second Life as its CEO. He came back once and then left again. He's now returned. Now it's under new management, so he's always been a member of the board, but he's not. He couldn't be CEO again of Linden Labs, but he's been brought in as CTO, Chief Technical Officer, and he gave an Inworld speech and conversation during the week. So talking about the way forward, he deliberately came in as a little sort of town hall thing, and sort of put the feelers out to the audience as to what they sort of wanted. One thing he was very clear about was that they realized that their age demographic is actually much older than might be thought. They realized there's absolutely no point in trying to expand Second Life by advertising to teens or the glamour sort of thing they've pitched at gamers. That's not to say there aren't a lot of young at heart avatars in there, so 90-year-olds who dress up like street, wrong analogy, dance party girls. Got to be polite there. It's fantasy. It's fantasies. The thing is, their actual real life demographic is a lot older, and they then Philip has this idea of launching a system where they will expand the world, apart from the technological improvements they can make, by sort of getting people to go out and recommend the world to their friends, maybe pay them little bounties or something for introducing a friend, like a lot of networks do, and bringing back what Philip would still say a more democratic side to the user base, and there was involving the users to much more extent than maybe they have been. And you've got to remember, the Second Life, when it started, was built by the users. Philip and friends just made the platform. it was empty. It had no real purpose. It said to be what it is. But then people thought, oh, I can build this. I can make this. I can sell this. And, the whole thing evolved. And it was a bit like explorers arriving on an empty continent. And slowly they built, slowly they made things, slowly they trade things, eventually they have buying and selling. And then they have sort of not segregation, little tribal things tribalize a bit. And it's a bit like that. It was an empty virtual world. It was empty sort of electronic geography. And it relied on the users. And I think bringing that sort of feel back to it is what they're angling at now. The thing that occurred to me is that in some of what Philip was saying, and I know it quite well, I sort of thought, I did think, I do know that he's quite a fan of OpenSim himself. And I do know, for example, that when he was first making Second Life, he actually seriously himself wanted to arrange for every server not to be run by Linden Labs, but to be on people's own computers, which is actually a way a lot of OpenSim works. People have their own grid on their own computer, and it's attached online to the Hypergrid, which is what we're all about. That never happened, but it was one of the strategies in his mind at the very beginning.
I heard that works really well.
Oh, it does. It does.
Doesn't it? Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of questions there. I mean, would it be beneficial for Linden Labs to allow people to host their own region and bring it onto the Second Life grid the way at the moment they bring it onto the Hypergrid?
They could charge a whole new fee.
Would it be practical, for example, for the for creators in Second Life to put export permissions on their things that would allow them to sell via the Second Life's market into OpenSim, maybe using PayPal or something like that? We already have models with Kitely's market and Chris Colosi's thing. I forget what it's called. So we're not excluded from that. I mean, there are people who want everything in OpenSim to be free, etc., but there's just as many people who want some kind of working economy. So this whole talk actually raised various issues. What I'm going to do now, it just occurred to me that everybody's looking at our blank faces on the screen, aren't we? We normally start this show off with something called a Hypergrid Safari Roundup, which is an event our former co-host, Ezra holds every Wednesday, visiting a couple of places on the Hypergrid of interest and meet up at the clubhouse and then carry on. As I mentioned, we sadly missed Tosha last week because of the communication breakdown, but James was there. And everybody here knows what Safari is like. So I'm just going to quickly run on to Server's blog. Server's blog. What am I talking about? Server's blog. Yeah. First blog of the week was Escape to Halloween, which was on Monday. It was like a prelude to Halloween coming. And it was just a sort of preview of some things that were going to be happening at Halloween. What I'm showing you here is a quick flip through the pictures that come on that blog. I love the way they make these ghostly avatars. I've got a ghostly horse somewhere that I had on stage here for a while. And of course, the other week we looked at that scene where everything was a skeleton, which, of course, look at that. Some very odd stuff going on here. Sort of, some of it is actually very creative, so I can't help but not like the creativity involved in this. So it's just the mood and the symbolism of Halloween is a bit down. It's a bit of a downer for me, I think. But it's like I can see kids like it. Kids love to be frightened. Which,
candy. They love candy too.
Yeah, they then howl like mad when they get really scared. But I mean, they actually like being frightened. Most of us adults have got more sense than to want to give ourselves a heart attack. Anyway, that was followed up by the safari itself, and it went to two places basically. The first stop was Ange and forget her partner's name.
Nani.
Nani, that's right. Yeah, Ange and Nani. Every year they provide this sort of unique hunt. And most years I remember it because it hasn't been particularly Halloween, but this one was. And you basically you can see on the bottom of the picture there are these pumpkins lying around, and a few of them were a bit peculiar because they kept disappearing and then reappearing a couple of yards away. And these were kind of magic pumpkins. Well, they called them laughing pumpkins, and basically you had to find them, and you had to click on it. And if it didn't move, that was a wasted click, but it didn't matter. But when you thought you saw it going invisible, you had to click on that. Or better still, if you saw it, beaming in like a Star Trek person landing, you click on it then. And if you're lucky enough, you got a prize. And there actually tend to be had, but infuriatingly, when you clicked on one, it delivered you an envelope. Often you end up with 10 folders called Halloween, and they've all got the same prize in them. There's no way of telling which Halloween packet has got what prize in it. Even today, earlier today, I was sorting my winnings. I found 6 of the 10 in the end, which I think was pretty good going from what I gathered.
Did any of you find the laughing pumpkins then?
Oh no! Yeah, oh yeah.
I found a few. Yeah,
there were 10. There were 10 in all.
Yeah.
I think somebody. I think I and Susan. I think I'm not sure. I was either a joint highest at 6, or there was somebody with 7. Nobody got all 10, which is actually quite unusual. I'm usually quite good at, with an hour to spare, to find 10 things. It was hard. I can't for the life of me think where the others would have been. But I will go back there and try and find the other 3. But
did you make it underground, Mel?
Oh yes, although it was a bit of a weird underground, if you see what I mean. It was.
I do. I was there.
It was.
I want to see this. This sounds good.
Okay,
I'm sorry I missed it.
Well, first of all, let
me ask you the pumpkins, because I was there, but I was not there for a long time, and I looked around, and the pumpkins that I found, there were many. But the laughing, were they laughing with sound, or was it the face they made?
No, it was a fading. They were like magic ones. Why they called them laughing, I don't know. They didn't laugh. Unless it's possible there was a sound effect on them.
Yeah, there was a good sound effect. It was going all the time.
So there was a laughter on the. Okay.
I heard some laugh, but I could not locate it.
And the thing was, they would laugh and then move. And it would be like, okay, laugh and then stay where you are. But
they would go hide somewhere. Oh my gosh!
Yeah, and I was using sound beacons to try and track them, and it was still difficult.
It looked really interesting, but I just couldn't spare much more time.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, for those of you who missed it, we'll talk. There's a 6-minute film I'm running now. We can talk over it, actually illustrating it. This is when we arrived. And we read the sign, and then we all went, there's James looking posh. I wish he'd look posh on our show.
No way.
Yes, his shoes. Look at his clogs. They're gorgeous. What are you talking about? They glow in the dark.
Yes, yeah. I had noticed those, oddly enough. Even though I didn't have nighttime settings. You can't miss James's clogs.
That's right.
You gotta look around now and then.
They look radioactive, to be honest.
It really is the most remarkable sim.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
This is very moody. And as I was filming, I filmed separately from when I was actually clicking on them myself. But I would, maybe it was laughing or something, but when I would click on one, suddenly I'd find it would start getting a bit invisible, and then I would know that was the right one, so I click again, or I wait for it. There it is going. Yeah, there it goes. So that was one of the laughing.
That was terrible.
Yeah, but it comes in a few yards away, so if you miss clicking on it as it's disappearing, you can look around and watch for it to reappear in a slightly different position.
What if you don't click on it? Does it stay where it is?
No, the moment you still click on it, you get your prize. And
I see. Okay.
You get your blue
all right.
You've been given the.
Oh, I thought it ran away before it gave you the prize.
No.
It's like an animal. If you catch it, like a mouse, if you catch it still escapes. But because you thought you get the prize, there's another one that just went. Yeah, so it's
Can't even see it. Yep.
yeah, you had to. Yeah, I mean, I was looking for them, especially when I started
So
filming. I was
funny.
beginning to look for them, but at the beginning, I didn't know what was going to happen. So I was pottering
I used
around
to
with the
work.
camera.
Do you remember Happy Hunting, Mal? The show
Oh
Sophia had.
yes, yes,
Well,
indeed,
I
I do.
used to have to go out with Cinders and try to hunt for these prizes with her. I am the worst hunt person you'll ever meet until I learned how to use area search,
Yes,
which is quite a cheat.
well, I tried to do that with this actually. Just when
Did you?
near the end, I'd only got 6 out of the 10, and I thought, but the trouble is, every single thing, only 10 of the things marked Halloween on the region were actually prizes. That well,
Okay, well, there you go.
there were more like 10,000 objects named Halloween, so I couldn't tell which were pumpkins and which were, presumably they know that trick, and you can fool people using area search actually. So, but I also find, I don't know if you can tell, but I mean, when I'm filming, I'm in what they call camera mode. I'm just flashing around here, there. It's not
Sure.
it's not machinima careful. It's a matter of quick visit, But of course, using this mode, I can run around the whole entire regions in camera much quicker than you can walk.
Sure.
And stuff. And so sometimes it doesn't work for collecting objects because you can only collect the objects if your avatar is within 10 meters of them. But other times, as long as your camera can get to them and click on them, you can get your prize. And that was the case here. I didn't move from the place I landed to the end, but my camera sure did.
You're very good at that then.
Yeah, first of all, it says I was very good at getting prizes. I suspect that may be the reason. I mean, most people know how to cam, as we call it, but they don't necessarily think to do it for that purpose. Whereas, I've gotten used to that. Doesn't make for the best of filming techniques, of course, but swings and roundabouts. Basically, there we go. One of them's about to go. I didn't see which one it was there. I'm actually standing on top of it. That's probably why. But it probably comes in. Oh, well, I've moved on, haven't I? But it will probably come in a yard or two away, kind of
That
thing.
thing about area search is really funny. I did not know. Well, this is a long time ago that I'm talking to you about that. And I did not know about that either, and I organized a mushroom hunt in the fall in Craft, and then after the hunt was over, and there were some people that were incredibly fast finding
Yeah.
all the things, and they told me, well, they used area search,
Mm-hmm.
and then of course the next year I organized another one, and I just called everything on the region mushroom.
Because
Brilliant.
if you do an
That'll
area
teach 'em.
search, if you do an area search and the objects are named prize number 1, prize number 2, prize number 3,
Yeah.
it's all about 30 seconds to get them all, But
Yeah.
we live and learn now. I mean, that's sort of the fun of it, People who've been in World for long enough and know these
Oh,
tricks.
but this particular sim, if you go there, even if you don't find one single mushroom, one single prize, it's just beautiful. It's just worth it to be there,
Yeah.
to look
Mm-hmm.
around and to look at all the things, and I think these things, sometimes I think the hunts or the special events, they really show the imagination and the fantasy of the people, to create,
Yeah.
so the creativity comes out so much.
Yeah. 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 Some people, it's a real outlet. Virtual worlds are such an outlet for skills and talents that people don't even
Yeah,
know they have
yeah,
half
yeah.
the time. If they're engaged, if they lean that way, it's perfect. It's kept me going forever.
Yes, so the endless. Well, I always found this about open sim in the way it's so much bigger and faster. But also the surprises are more pertinent because in a world with perfect search and stuff, you can search for what you want. Whereas when you can't search for what you want, the worlds are full of surprises because you just stumble upon things and
Right.
look at this. And in fact, I got a new one I found this morning. So that wasn't a safari stop. Okay, the next stop. Oh no, sorry.
Are you going to tell us about it, or
No,
is it a secret?
yeah, no, I got the film anyway. For some reason, the slideshow feature in here is really not working very well. today. So what I have to do is I have to keep going. I have to go back, don't I? There we are. So yeah, well, you've seen the film I talk. So oh, actually, now I think of it, I think we did. Okay, let's try it this way. There we are. Okay, sorry. So here are the other pictures. So actually took on Safari, the same thing. The first one, animated GIFs. This is in the entrance of that building, although there are only a few of the mushrooms in there. And as James mentioned, it was, they call it underground or the caves, but actually it was sort of quite open. It was like, I thought it was more like ruined structures on a lower level. Didn't sort of feel as enclosed as caves would. But anyway, there were quite a lot down there.
Well, and there was a hidden cave system beneath the ground as well.
It's possible I missed.
You just didn't find it.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's not, I'm not foolproof even in camera mode.
Yep.
There's a lovely Tina Bay who she can't handle the language, unfortunately. I really wish she could come on this show, but she can't. Always smartly dressed, she is. So, well, as costumings go. Yeah, lots of candles here as well. This is Nani, actually, not Angie. This is Nani.
It's a great name. I like that name.
Yeah, very cartoony kind of avatar.
Anime. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Hang on. Yeah. Sorry, my keys are playing up here. There we are. Scarecrow, something all moody. That's now I forget who that is. It's not it's not Jessica for once. It's somebody else. Yeah. But interesting avatar that is. Yeah, there's Jessica. It's a normal. Normal. Not sure about that
Jessica
word.
is cool. Yeah. She's easily recognizable everywhere.
Yeah. It's like me. I've got to get the same hat and costume. It just stay the same. People know who you are. You know, and as everybody knows, I can find you anytime because of your lovely hair or wig. Tosha. Follow the wig. Follow the wig. Put my camera on your head. Yes, a lot of dead angels or something here, which I think
fallen angels. Yeah, that's a cool image.
Yeah, and maybe that's the other chap, Ange. Don't know. She probably had a reason for photographing that person. And she's managed to get herself in a cage there. I see. A lot of self-portraits on this. Interesting. Yeah, so there we are. That's a good bit. I love it when you get an animated GIF that captures very little movement, but it just catches enough to really pull you in.
Make it interesting, yeah. Pops. Mm-hmm.
No, that's just nice balance of tones, really, light and tone. So that was the end of that one. So the second stop. I'm really not well today. The second stop was not a shop. This is a graveyard, Lafayette Cemetery, which is in New Orleans, and this is actually a build of that Halloween connection is simply that it's a graveyard, but the graveyard itself is a real world recreation of Lafayette Cemetery in New Orleans. So these are the pictures.
Nice.
To start with. And I'm a cemetery would not normally attract me, but the fact that this is, like quite a few New Orleans locations in OpenSim, it's actually modeled on the real New Orleans. This was an apt photo, really. I caught James sitting in a place that has vacancies. Mm-hmm. So I sat beside him, and then Tina sat beside me, and then Jessica sat beside us, and then last, oddly enough, but not least,
that's nice.
So yes, that's a nice little family shot of us.
And James definitely wearing atomic Crocs.
Yep.
Atomic Crocs. That's
orange atomic Crocs for Halloween.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Now this is
for Halloween.
This is most of the cemetery, by the way, from above. She got a good. You can see the size of it, and all these are individual graves, gravestones, tombs, and everything else. So it's a real world modelling. And she did take us around a few stops that are actually famous graves and things. But as we were walking,
Excuse me, who is she?
Oh,
The
Miss
one that
Cal.
took you
Miss
around.
Cal is the builder.
Ah, yeah, okay.
Yep.
Right, okay. Yeah, this is oh God, I meant to do this before we started.
Is Miss Cal also the one that made this beautiful city of New Orleans we were once?
Yes.
Yeah,
She and some partners. Yeah.
Oddly enough, I friended her in World, and I was going to try and get her on for this, but she wasn't on Discord, although I sent the link. But she said find me on Facebook, but I have not been able to find her on Facebook. No Miss Kai anyway. Maybe I'm meant to know her other name or real name, and I don't.
Maybe it's not in her profile or something.
No, I did a lot of double checking. So on my screen here, you can't see it. I've got my notepad, and I've got the URL to go to the region, which is HG Lagny. I meant to give this to James before we started, when I was still able to access Discord. Maybe I can do it in a minute when we've got a break. Okay, so yeah, it's called Lafayette Cemetery, and the region it's it's on the grid called
It's a fantastic build, really.
LagnyAppyGrid.com, and it's got a port number at 8402. That's very unusual too. I'll try and I'll try and copy that and get it into chat somewhere.
It'll be on the blog.
Again? Oh, okay.
It'll be on the blog post as well.
Oh, of course it will. Yeah. I took it in World, but yeah, of course it will. Right. So yes, so you can see from the aerial shot that it's pretty fundamental there, and it looks like any cemetery. And to be honest, I'm one of these people that I quite like cemeteries when they're deserted. I mean, the death complex or anything else, but they're one of the most peaceful in the modern world. If you find a big cemetery and go through the gate, it's one of the most peaceful places you can find. So just
deserts are the same way.
And when they
get a chance,
when they're overgrown too, that just adds to the charm, I think.
That slide that you're showing there, that's a mausoleum that Nicolas Cage has purchased for his future residency.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well. I didn't catch that bit. I didn't filming. I didn't follow all the chat, of course. But that's interesting. Nicolas Cage, huh?
Yeah.
Wonder why he likes pyramids. Or is it you're talking about the pyramid shaped one or the other one?
The pyramid shape. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Well, he might not be dead yet, but he's obviously made a.
He has plans. He's made his plans.
He's booked his place, so to speak. And then the close up. I think this was a famous one too. The picture on
that's Forrest on the left with the balloon pants, literal balloon pants.
Oh wow!
Oh yeah, no, I meant this guy. I think that's a real world. Person. I can't remember who it was. And there we are again, James.
Oh, that's quite a beautiful.
I'm just kidding. That lovely.
Quite a beautiful build.
On that, this is out on the streets next to the cemetery. In fact,
but, beautiful houses.
I love the lighting there. You can just imagine that lit up after dark. The way big houses used to be lit before electricity cost so much, I guess.
When money was cheap.
Well, the people that had the houses had the money. The people sleeping in the sewers are the ones that didn't. Right. Okay. So that was that one. And then while I'm at it, AI Austin did a blog this week on the same place. He wasn't on Safari. He just said, what better day to visit the cemetery on Halloween, of course, on the Day of the Dead. And I have these pictures aren't formatted the same way, so I have to sort of click in and out of them. But
wow,
pictures. That's obviously not the cemetery. He's actually looking at a lot more of the New Orleans than the actual cemetery itself.
Gorgeous. There's the cemetery.
Yeah, there. That's cemetery. Oh yeah, the blogger says cemetery, but it's just like nicely it's included. There's the big moon again. That's a nice touch. That's definitely a Halloween moon, isn't it? If there is such a thing. more grand views. And did I get to that one? Yeah, yeah, the skeleton. That's the cemetery on one side, and then this is part of New Orleans, Greater New Orleans. Yeah, it's also sort of scale, and it's, you do feel like you're wandering around things. I remember when Virtual London was up, both in Second Life and in OpenSim, the juxtaposition of different areas made it feel very claustrophobic, and you never really felt you were in Kensington Square or in Hyde Park or in Soho, because you turn one corner and in real life you were talking about a mile and a half away. It didn't feel like you were in the place it was meant to be, but can't get everything right. So that's it for the blogs there. Now I can return here. That was right. Okay, this is my film of the cemetery, so we can carry on talking while we look at this. This is a nice 6-minute job. Magazine store. That's actually, for somebody, that is the landing point when you arrive, because I think I got there 5 minutes earlier, which I sometimes do. I go from one stop to the other early, so it's. Oh no, there are people here now. If I can get there early, I can sometimes get filming done while it's still lag free.
Good idea. Yeah.
But as people arrive, it slowly gets slightly laggier. Not always.
Not so free.
It depends on the region, but this one did actually get sort of laggy, and I've got 6 minutes here, but I eventually cut the film, not because I was finished, but because I could barely move. In fact, I actually had to crash I had to quit Firestorm to get out of whatever mess I was in. But yeah, very moody sort of thing too. And enough trees to completely disturb my aerial shots.
I had a question that I asked of Miss Cal, but I don't think she heard or had a chance to answer. But I really wondered if she modeled all of those tombs and crypts, or is there a community where those things might exist already? And I can't say that I've seen them on anything like Sketchfab or any place, but there was a lot of models in this build.
It's actually the reason there are a lot would make me think she probably had done. I mean, but I suspect one thing she will have done is use photographic textures on some of the surfaces, so they are photographic replicas. And obviously, not all the tombs did have an inside that you could look into.
Many did.
So a lot did, So there was. It's economy. I think we've all built built little regions for ourselves with effectively phantom houses around the edge that you're not meant to go into. It's just meant to make it look bigger. Especially, some of the early mesh buildings in OpenSim were literally empty shells, not even with rooms. They were like a facade, and that was it. But it all helps with the ambience. And I remember some of the early web worlds we actually visited. I guess it was back as Metaverse Weekend Reviews many years ago. There was one world. It was actually on the iPad too for a long while, and I think it was built in Unity, but everything was very realistic. I think it was a town in the south of France somewhere. But the external of it was all enclosed in a kind of photographic dome. And, you felt like you were really enclosed in a space, a much bigger space, until you reached the end of the road and bang, you were up against the inside of the dome, the wall. And you couldn't camera out or go anywhere beyond it. And at that moment, and that moment alone, the whole illusion of the world was destroyed, Has anybody ever seen a film, I think it's called The 13th Floor?
I saw that so long ago. I don't barely remember. I can hardly remember.
Floor.
There were 12 stories officially, but the 13th floor. What happened up there, Mal? I forget.
I don't remember now, but I think
way
I
old.
might
It was one of the first virtual world films I saw. Basically,
Yes,
there were
exactly.
lots of different sets, as if they were in different time zones or from different periods and things. And you saw these sort of events happening in different places, but it you weren't quite sure what it was, but it didn't occur to you it was a virtual world at that time. I guess it wasn't a common enough illusion for you to think, oh, I bet you
They
that's
build
what.
it as parallel
Yeah,
worlds.
but the thing
So
is,
interesting.
on
Wow.
the 13th floor, it's
Mhm.
like the 13th level, right? There's a big chase, I think it happens. And
That's
I can't
right.
remember whether it's people on feet or vehicles or something like that. But they chase one party chases the other party off the edge of the simulator. And that's where everything goes berserk, because people in the cinema have never seen wireframe before. And then the wireframe was dissolving. You know, they had literally reached the end of the simulator. And, you know, a bit of this and that and the other hung around, but they're obviously off the sim, you know. They're gone, you know.
That's
They're
wild.
in the hyper void. It was pictorialized, unlike anything we know, but, you know, it was the same concept of, you know, there was a bound, you know, all these, you know, wonderful fantasy environments. There was an end to them, a real end, you know, where the simulation ended. And
The deadly end, yeah.
it had
You
a
can watch
the end on where they actually end up dissolving into wireframe, and then they're going off on the edge of that. That was epic.
Yeah, that's a riot. I'm
Yeah.
for $3.59 on YouTube, we can watch it.
Oh, I got it now. I can share it over something with you if you want to have a couple of hours on watching movies with me anytime
Okay.
on Discord. I've got it. I think I've got it offline as well as DVD. So. Yeah, but yeah, I've got a whole category listed somewhere: virtual reality movies. You know, sort of from the Lawnmower Man onwards. You know, the landmark movies that got into it, sometimes very badly. You know, but I think the 13th floor took us both surprised when we were watching it, and I remember that one. Okay, where are we? Oh yes, we're near the end of this film. So that's it. Yeah, at this point I was getting you can't tell that much, but I was getting rather laggy, and I ended up completely stuck. So I think I was stuck on that frame. That's the last frame there, anyway. So that's okay.
It's really awesome. The building is really awesome.
While you're,
Yeah.
I was going to say, while you're on that frame, Mal, you could point out who Miss Cal was. She had the black angel wings.
Oh, the last frame?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
here.
on
Oh,
the
yes,
right.
of course.
So that's
Yeah.
Miss Cal, the building.
Yeah. I was option clicked on her.
Yeah.
But that's right. Now I took another bit of filming, and I actually option clicked on her as she walked around. But that's the film that didn't come out. It all crashed on me when it crashed in Firestorm. It may have actually been the engine driving the video recording machine. May have been the thing that crashed me, not Firestorm itself. So, the actual film catcher. Yeah, there she is. And as I said, a friend of her. I kind of invited her. I told her I was looking for guests for the show, and then she said, "Yeah, catch me on Facebook." And I sent her the link to Discord, which I don't think she's taken up. And I went to Facebook several times. I looked up Miss Cal. I went to some of the groups to see if I don't know. I couldn't find her anyway. She's probably known to everybody but me as somebody else, you know. Oh, that's the text from Philip's thing. Okay, this is somewhere I went earlier today. It's craftworld.org, craft-world.org, port 8002, and then the region is called Las Nubes, LAS space NUBES. And it's created by somebody, well, everything seems to be attributed to somebody called Angel Bright on Craftworld. This this is only 6 days old from the look of it. It's clearly unfinished. This is the giveaways when some of the long shots and stuff. But for it looks like this little town below and everything must have been. She probably used it as a Halloween event or something, because there's a lot of Halloween traits here. But it's not all Halloweeny. It's sort of it's on multiple levels on the side of a mountain, and the mountain's a bit unfinished, but. As you can tell, as I flip about, I just like the look of it.
I think it looks great. It looks nice.
Looks pretty neat.
When I pull the camera out a bit, you actually see it. It's layered on different, you know, there's a river coming down. It's a flat rock, and one building's on a rock, and then you pan out, and then, yeah, here we are. You'll see it's not. There we are. Now it's actually above the rest of the town.
Can you put the element into the chat, please?
Yeah, I can't easily, but I did read it out. That's why it's on my broadcast screen here. So
or the name of the Simone.
Las Noobs.
The region is called Las Noobs. It's on Craftworld, so you know that. LAS is the first word, and then space NUBES. And the person behind it, from what I can gather, is simply called Angel Bright on Craftworld.
Bright.
Yeah. So you're a Craftworld resident anyway, aren't you? So you should find her pretty easily.
Bright like dark.
Yeah.
BRITE.
Angel, like angel, and then BRIGHT. It spells as all one word, so it's a lowercase b on Bright. It's just Angel Bright.
Because I don't find anyone by that name.
She's also Angel Bright on OpenSimWorld as well, so I friended her there.
Can you spell the region name again slowly so I can type it?
Right, craftworld-org. So craftworld.org :8002 /LAS LAS space noobs NUBES.
Okay, thanks. I'll find it on OpenSimWorld if it exists.
Yeah,
there it is.
Oh yeah, that's where I found it from.
Yeah.
I think it looks pretty damn nice.
When I go hunting for these new, it's like my version is Safari. You've got to find a region to show off we haven't been to yet. It's just nice to, Tosha and I agreed a while ago, didn't we, Tosha, that sort of we wanted to focus where we could on sort of nice things that people have built, maybe out of the way, not the big well-known regions, but little places we find that we want to see.
Yeah, or I was suggesting that I finally found out how to use this OpenSimWorld.org, which I never looked at it before.
Ah, right.
And now, now as soon as I get a little more time, I will be looking there more often, and then visit regions and see if I can get into contact. And I make a list. If I get a list, now I have one on my list, and I pass it to you, Mel.
Yeah,
and then you can get into contact with the people.
Yeah, you can friend people and bookmark it. There's actually got a lot more that's a bit under the surface in OpenSimWorld that I've begun to find now. When you look up somebody, then there's often more information that you can't get from the main page and stuff like that. But also,
this is really fantastic. I really like it.
The thing I liked about this is the puddles on the ground. Look at the way the rain has touched the puddles at the bottom. It's actually making. It must be a special.
And the rain particles are
on the ground. Yeah,
it's a rainstorm with a collision. It's got a collision element. That makes you really feel a bit wet, actually.
Very beautiful.
Yeah, so what I do find out is if I friend people on OpenSimWorld, it's often a week or two before they friend you back. It's like I get the impression people don't really check it out. Their feeds there, they probably just look up regions. But yeah, I'm more of a fan of it now actually than I was at first. The only thing I find sad is I know that I know of regions, and if I try to look them up in OpenSimWorld, they don't exist because you actually have to register for OpenSimWorld and put your place up there. It's all free, but you've actually got to do the work to get yourself listed. It's like you can find yourself in the phone book, but you can't find yourself in Yellow Pages unless you've registered.
You know who's not friends with me on OpenSimWorld?
Me.
No, you are actually.
I was going to say, happy birthday!
No Tosha, and no Pet Love. Oh,
that can't be true.
It's OpenSimWorld.
That's not possible.
OpenSimWorld, yeah.
I didn't even know that you could make friends there.
Yep. Yeah, you just look up there. Yeah, it's got its own way of doing it, you know, but it's actually very intuitive when you do. But I forgot that I'm also friends with 2 Jameses on Facebook, and it was Facebook that told me somebody had a birthday, didn't they?
Right. No, that
And
James.
I used
That was
Facebook.
then, and this is now.
Yeah, we don't talk about that James. That's not right.
Okay, well, it's, oh, of course, there's the maybe I only sent it. I sent happy birthday to one of you. I don't know which.
That's James in that other place. RL.
One of you.
Oh, so
That's so funny.
well, I assumed in Facebook it was our birthday. So yeah.
It was.
Yeah, but you didn't get the. Yeah, never mind. Nobody else.
We only celebrate res days here.
I send messages to Facebook and those other networks. They tell you something, and you send a message and say, "What do you mean it's not my birthday? What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
Sorry, Facebook got it wrong.
So who am I today? Who am I today?
The lighting on these is nice too. I almost missed filming this last bit because you had to cross a bridge to what I thought was the end of the sim, and then it wasn't when I came round. So there's this whole other bit, and the joining of the two had finally raised when I sort of go back. So, but very gothic, and this has only been up for about 6 days. I think it's on the category saying new builds or whatever, which is a good category to look at. I mean, sometimes you just find there's one other I went to today, which is brand new, and it had an empty 5x5 by the look of it, with one building on it, and it was actually called Music Hub or something like that. So it's presumably somebody's got the land and they're just starting to build. I have a feeling that they must have brought this one online just in time for Halloween, even though it wasn't completed. My hunch, anyway.
Fantastic textures they have here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks so realistic.
Yeah.
One thing I don't know, like here, this is where you can really tell the bits are unbuilt. There's just piles of rocks, and sort of, this is all a bit random, and then suddenly it gets to a bit where they put something in it. I mean, a lot of these buildings look familiar. There must have been ones they've picked up and then just arranged. But I'm not sure. I mean, some of them look very different. They're very tall, like that house there. I couldn't actually pan out and get the whole height in camera, for one reason or another. And that was nice. Oh, yeah. And I didn't even see these steps first time around. They actually end up taking me back to the rear side of that house that I had near the beginning. There we are. Yeah, and then that was the first town. Yeah, so discovery of the week. And
very nice.
So Laz Noobs, Nubes, as Nubal as opposed to noob person. Well, actually, probably not noob, but anyway, noobs. What's noobs mean in Italian? I wonder. Right, and the only other.
Remember that promise monthly.
Right, something else now. Now the other thing I've got here. I do have film of this famous Philip Rosedale talk I mentioned at the beginning, but this is a sort of report-ish sort of thing, and it's a bit weird. It's not showing me time on this. I think it's one of these. I can't remember how long it is. It's probably about 10 minutes. This is an independent woman who's just done a film reporting on what Philip said, and although we are dealing with our Halloween cousin here. I thought it might be nice to play this just to maybe spark a little last-minute discussion this week before we go, because she actually verbally covers, he talked about this, he talked about that, and talked about that. Tell me what you think if you're getting bored. I don't know. We're going to be in our chat room this week, by the way. Or does anybody know?
What?
What, Mel? I'm sorry. What'd you
I,
say?
I was just saying if there was anybody in the chat room,
Oh,
they can
yeah,
have a
YouTube chat.
yeah.
No, a couple people have been in off and on, but nothing to
Right.
bring
Well,
forward.
I'll play this forward, and if we decide we're not interested, I thought it was quite interesting.
I can talk a little bit about HIE
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I noticed
when
that.
you're ready. Mhm.
I was going to leave that to the
Mm.
end because you were talking about the individual trailer things, weren't you? Yeah.
Promos, yeah, for the publicity booths.
Have you actually got any of the promos yet, or are you talking about just the making
Well,
of?
I'm actually just rendering one of them right now. Hmm.
Right.
And I
Okay.
might have a URL for you later.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I can show them on a future show before the actual event, so I'll pick them up.
Yeah,
But yeah,
it's 4 months away, yeah.
yeah, we'll talk
But
about it.
we're making 6 of them, 6 different languages.
Monthly
Yeah.
roundtable with Oberwolf Linden? Yeah, me neither. After a shaky start, we're finally back, with Philip Rosedale taking the mic. And let me tell you, it's a different vibe altogether. Back in May 2024, we had our first community roundtable with Executive Chairman Oberwolf Linden. It was supposed to be a monthly event, but, well, that didn't exactly pan out. I remember it vividly because I got up at 2:30 in the morning only to find out it had been cancelled right when I got there. Definitely not the best start. Fast forward a few months, and here we are at last with our second roundtable, this time presented by Philip Rosedale. Now, if you're new, Philip is the original creator of Second Life, the guy who turned the idea of a vast virtual community into a reality. He's back now as Chief Technology Officer, and if you've seen his avatar, you'll know it hasn't changed much since those early days. Still rocking that classic 20-year-old look. Interestingly,
That's
he
funny.
acknowledged it during the event, saying he knows it looks outdated compared to today's avatars, which
It
have
looks
become
meshy.
sophisticated with all the new
It's interesting. I think it is a
obvious
mesh. He had it
assistants.
redone from the original as a mesh, but
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
didn't. He didn't change the look.
Modernizing his look, which was kind of a fun call out to the community for some makeover suggestions.
Yeah, this is funny. Yeah,
And
so
honestly, I think he's onto something. If we want to show newcomers, especially younger folks, what Second Life is all about today, we need to be putting our best foot forward. A throwback avatar might be cool for nostalgia, but having something that reflects where we are now could make a real difference.
Younger means in their 40s.
While we come, and I think an updated Philip could do just that. Compared to the first roundtable, I found this one to be much more engaging. Philip Rosedale really seemed to focus on listening to the community and actively discussing possible solutions, which made the whole experience feel a lot more collaborative. He comes across as a real people's person, someone genuinely interested in what the community has to say. That's quite a contrast to Oberwolf Linden, who, while effective, had a bit of a harsher tone when addressing us. If you haven't listened to this roundtable yet, I definitely recommend giving it a watch. While there weren't any groundbreaking announcements or major shifts, it was a refreshing conversation. I genuinely enjoyed hearing from Philip, and I'm excited to see what he does next. His approach feels promising, like he's open to shaping Second Life's future with us, not just for us. With that said, let me touch briefly on some of the key points Philip brought up. These aren't seismic changes, but they give a good idea of where things are headed and why it's worth staying tuned. Speaking of problems, let's talk tech issues. Those updates to Firestorm have been rough. Performance tanked for a lot of us, and Linden Lab knows it. They're actually admitting the technical debt, which is refreshing. They're even using AI to sift through user reports faster, which should mean bugs get squashed a bit quicker. On the AI side of things, Rosedale said they're keeping it low-key, They don't want AI to take over the human stuff that makes Second Life great. They might add utility bots eventually, but they're really going to take their time and get community input, especially from the Friends of Philip group. So, yeah, AI is not going to be running the show anytime soon.
Good.
What is Friends of Philip
Yeah.
group? Philip Rosedale introduced a new group called Friends of Philip. He described it as a platform for deeper communication and collaboration within the Second Life community. Rosedale invited residents to join this group to participate in experiments aimed at enhancing interaction and self-governance in Second Life. He emphasized that the group would serve as a space for collective exploration of new communication methods and community-driven initiatives. By joining, members can stay informed about upcoming projects and contribute to discussions on improving the Second Life experience. Link will be in the description. Marketplace moderation was another hot topic. People are tired of explicit stuff taking over. It's not a good look, especially when trying to bring in new users or make professional connections. Linden Lab's not talking about censoring things, but more about balancing it out so the marketplace actually reflects what the whole community values. They're looking for ideas on how to do that better. And yeah, crypto came up. There's interest, but also caution. Rosedale's not ready to dive in head first because of all the volatility. It's on their radar, but don't hold your breath. Marketing-wise, they're rethinking their approach. Instead of trying to lure gamers, they want to target niche communities who'll get the creative and social vibe of Second Life. And they're open to suggestions from us. So if you've got ideas, now's the time to speak up. And here's where I want to jump in with my own thoughts. I absolutely love creating content for Second Life. I love writing about it, vlogging about it, and even talking about it in real life. My family knows all about Second Life, and I've had plenty of conversations about it with my mates during Xbox party chats. But let me tell you, explaining what Second Life is to people who've never tried it can be challenging. Most of them just don't get it. And that's probably a big reason why some people don't stick around or why SL sometimes gets a bad reputation. It's tough to explain something this expansive. It's not just a game, and it's not quite social media. It's kind of its own thing. Now, don't get me wrong, I do this because I love it, because it's fun, and I genuinely enjoy being part of this world. But at the same time, let's be honest, it's also a lot of work. Content creation isn't just snapping a few photos and calling it a day. It's planning, editing, writing, and promoting. And it takes time and energy. That's why I think Linden Lab could step up a bit here. Maybe it's time for some enhanced tools for cross-promotion. They could give us official assets, like templates, co-branded content, or even unique links that benefit both creators and the platform. It would make promoting SL off-platform easier and more impactful. If Linden Lab really sees creators as ambassadors, then I think it would make sense to equip us with the tools and even some rewards for bringing in new users, rather than leaning on our passion alone. Because as much as we love it, at times it does feel like we're doing a lot of their marketing work for free. And if we're going to push Second Life into new audiences, some structured support would go a long way in making that effort worthwhile. Of course, I get that there could be some downsides too. If Linden Lab started offering rewards for promotion, it might attract people who are just in it for the incentives. Kind of like how some folks treat affiliate marketing, pushing whatever brings in the cash rather than things they genuinely believe in or have tested themselves. That could lead to content that doesn't really reflect what makes Second Life special, which would be a shame. So, yeah, there would definitely need to be the right balance. Maybe some way to ensure authenticity remains at the core of what people share. But even without rewards, just giving us the right tools to help promote SL more effectively would be a good start. It's about making it easier for those of us who are already passionate about this platform to spread the word in a meaningful way. People also asked about community spaces, like more options for owning land together and creating big shared areas for sailing or racing. Rosedale seemed into it. They're looking at ways to make that happen, though there's no exact timeline. It's clear they want to hear from us on what kinds of spaces would matter most. Then there's the avatar stuff.
Ah, okay. I think that
Remember
was...
that promise monthly rep.
I think that one cut off for me. Anyway, that's the woman talking there is now talking. She's called Prisqua Newell. That's Prisqa, first name space Newell, Newall. And that report of hers, she's also posted onto YouTube, so on her channel with that name. So if you want to see that again. I haven't seen any other reports she's done, but she's good, eloquent and to the point. What I found very funny there actually was like me, she's just while she's doing the talking, she's just showing some random film of Second Life. But something I don't think I ever seen really in OpenSim, which reminded me that must have been Second Life, is the fact that you'd get a long shot, just to the ground or something, and then there'd be a low-hanging skybox floating in the sky with somebody who's still building it and things. And that's, I guess we have the affordance to, well, we've got the affordance in both worlds to go higher. But I mean, maybe we're, because space and such isn't such a premium out in OpenSim. We don't see so many of these random skyboxes that people dump in the sky because they've got nowhere else to put it. Interesting, because to me it was a real giveaway. I thought, that's a boring Second Life landscape. But I don't know, you guys, your thoughts on that, because she did sum up some of the main things. The thing that made me cringe most was the fact when she led into they want to start promoting to niche groups and bringing groups in and things. And that's one of the things I've always thought that OpenSim excelled in. In fact, for a moment when I was watching for this talk, I sort of thought, hey, they're pinching our world. The idea of because a lot of OpenSim is little niche groups who form a grid of their own or just have a region somewhere on the hypergrid, and we love discovering them and bringing them to you, and as part of what we do in Safari in this program. And that's something, I don't think I ever really treated Second Life that way. Sure, I said, well, it's a perfect place where if you've got a book club, that studies the works of Fred Bloggs Jr., a book club in Second Life, because it's international, you could hold your monthly meeting there. And given that only 10 people in the entire world follow Fred Bloggs Jr., then how else could you have a book club for that author? A silly example in a way, but only in a virtual world could you actually have the equivalent of a meetup down at the local pub when it's global. It's of global reach. An average book club, talking about something normal, could be in real world or it could be virtual, whatever. But there are certain streams where the niche belongs in the virtual world. And of course, nowhere this lady, although she put everything eloquently, she didn't mention in that report the cost of doing things in life. You can't even upload a texture or build, or you wouldn't know, Tosha. Almost anything
Well, that was what I was going to say. She put it very eloquently. She talked very well. She has nice photos with it, but she really doesn't say any new things. Everything that she is mentioning is what is already there and what is just widen it out a little bit. Well, the community spaces and all that, but it all means paying for it, and that it is a highly commercial area, and that is what mostly bugs me about Second Life, that it is so commercialized, and well, and if somebody like what's the guy's name, Philip Rosedale, that says that he's looking into it to make some commercial, no, some communitary places. Well, what the hell,
Yeah.
It could be easy for a huge company as is Linden, that not only makes a lot of money on all the users, but also is the proprietary of all the contents that the users make and put
Yeah.
into Second Life. It could be an easy thing for them to put quite a bit of land just for community save sake, and they don't. They look into it, but and I've seen by the example of the ivory tower of Lumiere Noir, since
Yeah.
since he died while he was living. There was a girl, Avery, I don't know what, who was managing it together with him, and it was always well cared for and everything, and they had a big sandbox to for people to try out things and all that. Then he died, and it was all Avery's duty to take care of, and she had to get it through with Linden to make this land like a communitary land, like what they didn't have to pay for, and you look at it now, and it's just shrunk. It's badly cared of. Avery has died some years ago, so it it. It is just nothing anymore. That means that even of those people that on and the builds that the Lindens very they're very proud of, and they're very good, and they're very um well, even those, they don't care anymore. If they don't have somebody, I don't know, standing on that
Yeah.
all the time,
Yeah.
they don't
Right.
give a damn about it, really, and they don't give a damn about what happens to the users, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I must admit, I was very surprised by this. I mean, I know Philip, and I follow a lot of things he does, and because he does some great things. But this actually, his return to lab sort of took me by surprise, given the whole load of other things he's been doing, and the fact that it would be literally taking up all his time. But it's. I mean, it gave he was sort of giving like a refreshed feel to it. But as you say, I mean, you're still talking about the same old Second Life. And, without Second Life having maybe paved the way, you could argue that OpenSim wouldn't exist. But I mean, we are a very different thing. It's the outlier versus the dense city, I don't know. And it doesn't look at all pretty either. I've realised, there's, how in an old city you get areas that are like run down and decayed, and everybody's forgotten about them. Well, a lot of Second Life's like that. OpenSim just wouldn't. Nothing survives that's like that as a rule. There's just new stuff all the while. And also Philip, of course, knows a lot about OpenSim himself, and he did say. I forget what I mentioned this at the beginning of the show, but he did say at one point that when he first came up with the idea of Second Life, his intention was that every user would have their own server, and their region would be on their own server, and it would connect to the Second Life grid. Now, partly that is now the case with OpenSim. There's a lot of regions on OpenSim that are now on people's home computers, and they serve them up to the web where it gets interconnected onto the Hypergrid. And it's interesting, he didn't mention that now, or I mean, those often made that point that he initially thought it would work like that. So I almost feel a bit disappointed that he's doing what he's doing and not pursuing something exciting and new, or maybe even addressing issues of interoperability. I don't mean, making Second Life a colony of OpenSim or vice versa, but I mean just practical way. Like, for example, if this Friends of Philip group could exist in the Hypergrid as well as in Second Life, or any group for that matter, you'd have a way of communicating, between the closed grid and the open grids, which I think I really like. I mean, there are people here, all of us really, but I was in World to watch that. I don't go into Second Life that much, but I go in there, and I'm actually still in there because I use a text client, which I realise is just been running in the background here. There's some overlap. We take some inspiration from there, but the thing that, again, I like your thoughts on too, is of course the possibility. Thursday and Nobody, for example, are working on a Mumble thing, that could possibly work if OpenSim loses VVox. Second Life, of course, is where we got VVox from. They don't charge OpenSim, small grids anyway, but Second Life is stopping using VVox because it was costing them too much. So they're moving on to their own system. But I want to know is whether that own system will be built into Firestorm and will ultimately work in OpenSim, just like Second Life Voice does at the moment. If you look at the processes on your computer while you're running Firestorm in OpenSim, while the sub-process is common to both. It's called SL Voice, EXE, or something else on Mac, of course. And that process is a separate process that allows VVox Voice to be on every region in Second Life and every allowed region in OpenSim. And you can turn it off from Firestorm or from the Second Life viewer, which doesn't apply to OpenSim, of course. But I think that's always been very important, that continuity of metaphor and things, the way the code behind OpenSim is different these days from what Linden had, but it is derived from a sort of original kind of source. And I think anything that is a major change with Second Life could adversely or beneficially affect OpenSim too. So I don't know, while we're still on air and before the wolf starts howling, maybe some of your thoughts. And also I want to talk to Petlab about HIE as well. So any thoughts on all that, the Lindens and the...
Yeah, I must say I'm very much against a central organization for OpenSim, because I think a centralized organization always has the well the danger of having certain persons on the top of it all that in the end have to say, and their word is much more important. So I think the charm of OpenSim is exactly that there are many different worlds next to one another, and you can cross from one to the other, and the problems are getting less and less, and you can make now friends from one. Doesn't always work, but from one grid to the other, and that I think is really well. And I think really, honestly, there is no reason to change this structure, because changing it, to me, it bears too many dangers to get in so strongly centralized, because you can understand that in a world like Second Life, if you have a problem with your grid, you cannot go to Philip Rosedale. You can go to the one
file a ticket with the corporation and wait a few months.
yeah. And but in OpenSim, with a little luck, if you are of one of them, the most grids are smaller. If you go to the owner of the smaller grid and say, well, look, and that happens, or I'm going to have a party this weekend, can you please check that, the grid is stable and everything, you get a response, immediate and direct response, and normally these grids are fairly good, well taken care of, and I think that is important. And that is, for me, is the one of the most important things in OpenSim.
I totally agree. I mean, there's nothing, there was nothing there to be, encouraged about that suggested to me that, I wanted to know there's going to be changes to voice, right? There's going to be changes to, there's going to be a mobile client and things like that. Now, I wanted to know if those will be third-party things too, just in the way we have Firestorm as an independent client that works with both OpenSim and Second Life. Will there be a mobile client, or will it be, which oddly enough, Adam Frisbee has been designed the interface for with Unity. It's not a Linden can do it themselves apparently. But will that be something else that OpenSim can use just as that we use Firestorm? Or will they deliberately take moves to make sure that the viewer technology is the closed property of the world? So will they treat it as their own, money-making machine, the mobile viewer, for example, or will they open source it like they give the main viewer to Firestorm? And then it was very obviously acknowledging that nobody uses the Second Life viewer; they all use Firestorm anyway. So, I mean, although we're completely separate things, we all rely on our Firestorms, to actually access and get into this place. OpenSim will always exist, but there may come a point in time we haven't got a new viewer that will ever access it. We'll have to rely on old versions, and maybe in 20 years' time we'll still have to use a version of Firestorm that is the one that comes out in 2 years' time. So we'll be like 18 years behind. We'll still have OpenSim and love it, and it will never get worse. But we want OpenSim to progress as much as we, Linden's want Second Life to progress, and so these things sort of run in parallel. You've got to take the big centralized corporation out of the equation, because that's where we don't compete on that.
I agree with both of you, and Tosha said exactly what's true, and so did you just say the same thing, Mel. OpenSim is free, and Second Life is wonderful in its own way, but OpenSim is more vibrant somehow, because just because there's more people will come because they can do what they want. When Second Life, you can only do a couple hundred things, maybe 500, 600 things, then you get tired of it.
I still have a good time in
just
Second
kidding.
Life. Yeah, I like Second
Life. I love it, especially the table games.
I think what is the biggest problem in Second Life, I think for many people, is that it is so goddamn expensive. If you do just close to the things that we've seen, for example, this night, in that you, Mel, showed us tonight, in the different sims, you would spend a fortune on that. Just a fortune.
For sure.
And you could never allow yourself to have that only for a weekend,
And I forgot about that. You're right. That's a real showstopper right there.
And for that you have to sell things and to see to it that you sell them and and
rent land or something.
Almost everything is for free, and I think it should stay that way, and that is good. It's
where the prices are very low. Yeah, you're so right. I agree.
Well, so Mel, before we wrap up, I've got a chat from YouTube I wanted to share.
Ooh.
Are you still there, Mel? Oh, maybe not. But anyway,
yes, I'm here in the distance.
Oh, okay.
Chatting away, and I'll just sleep around the corner.
Sure. Well, Sophie Supermarine is in chat, and she has let us. Yeah, and
Yay,
she's
Sophie.
she's let us know there's a new issue of blah 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 that's been released.
Indeed. Now, I've got a question for her while she's in chat, because I actually picked up that today.
Okay.
Is it only available for me to pick up at AMV, or have you got outposts for it on other grids?
Yeah, let's give her a couple of seconds.
I read her post about that this morning.
Okay,
but,
okay. I have a link here to the Open SimWorld article about it, and so I'll put that up. I'll put that up in the lower third for people to reference.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw the link, but I think it only took me to one particular grid. And anyway, it was this morning, so I didn't really have time to fit that in. But yes, for those of you who don't know, you know that you've seen these the like PDF things that are flip magazines, and you often find them on the web. But Blah Blah is actually one that is produced only Inworld in OpenSim, and when you get it, you literally wear it as a heads-up display, and you read it on screen over your virtual environment. It could be on the web, I'm pretty sure, but I remember when we talked with her, it was a very deliberate move. She thought it should be something that should only be available in World, as part of a way of saying that, you know, it's for Inworld, it's by Inworld, you only read it in World, kind of thing, rather than make it available elsewhere. So yes, great to see that. It's actually seems to be quite a while since I saw the last issue, Sophie. So good to know you're still at it.
Yep. And she says the HUD is only on AMV, but the link is on the website.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So it was the AMV link I saw to get the HUD.
Yep.
Okay. Well, that's wonderful. Well, when we've got it, I'll maybe flip through a bit of it on screen on a future show. Or so we'll find a way anyway. But announcing it a bit more maybe in next week's show or something. So that's great. It's great that that's there, and good to see you watching here. I bet you're here because we're Second Life talking.
And Sophie comments she's also interested in writing OpenSim articles if anyone would like her to post for them. So very cool.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. That's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. So say they just hang on, your full name is Sophie
Sophie Supermarine on
Sophie at AMV. It's that's how they'll find you on the AMV grid. They just go to AMV.
On OpenSim World from that article post. They could
message of course. So I'm making this sound awfully complicated, aren't I? It's not at all. Thank you, OpenSim World. You're our bridge between the complexity of Second Life and freedom of OpenSim, creative OpenSim World. Love it. I did. While I just popped off, I did occur to me that the other thing that wasn't mentioned is the cost of Second Life, of course, but. When you see some of these lovely regions or grids on the Hypergrid, you got to remember that it's also been worthwhile for the grid owner or the grid manager, even if they're thinking of it slightly commercially, to come in and do it. Somebody who knows how to run a grid, even a small grid with just a few parcels, has no incentive to do that in Second Life. The grid in Second Life is Linden Labs. It always will be. You would not want to open a network of clubs or something in Second Life where you had control of the server. Linden probably wouldn't let you. But even if you did, your expertise will be wasted in Second Life. Your expertise is perfectly suited to opening up a grid on the Hypergrid. So I just thought I mentioned that too. That's not the average punter thing. That's actually the people with the expertise to run. And, you look at people like Wolf Territories guy, Dark Wolf. I can't never remember what he's called. Wolfie.
Lone Wolf.
Or Lone Wolf. Or people who do DigiWorlds and things like that. These are guys who've got the expertise. They've set up their whole grids, and they're not as big as Second Life, obviously, but they are similar sort of concerns, but and you might sometimes see a tendency to monopolize. If a grid owner always wants to have one of whatever the other people's doing on their grid too, But even so, they do fit into that niche quickly. Now, before the wolf howls and forces James to pull the switch.
Well, and there's no wolf again this week. I haven't set that program up.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But also, I know we're going to talk a little bit about HIE. We don't have Thursday here, actually, of course, but we're now going to talk a little bit about HIE because, well, I'll let you chat about it because you've been filming for some of the different sequences in different languages that are to do with getting in. So
it's all for me. It's all about the publicity booths in the backyard.
Yeah,
and I do have a film to offer. If you want it, it's a little late. We can save it for another time if you want, since we have till April.
If you've, yeah, I mean,
next week would be good. We're a little tight today. Yep.
Yeah, send it to me, and then I'll get it offline into the folder. It might be easy to show. But yeah, so you've been. Is this just one of the first of many films that you've actually got ready, kind of thing? And
there will be 6 of these promotions, each one in a different language.
Right.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. So for me, anyway. So
do we know any of the voiceover people on the different languages?
I've gotten recordings from everybody. I just need a few pictures. For the splash, because it'll be, welcome to Hypergrid. This is what you need to know for your booth. And there's a picture of the person who's doing the dictation or the narration.
Yeah.
On the splash. So, but yeah, Thursday's gearing up. She's in HIE mode now.
Very good.
Yeah,
it'll be
great.
It's still not. Hang on, March or April? No, it's April, isn't it? There's something else before in March. It's still a way off, but there is
OSCC, right?
Nothing like planning ahead. Oh yeah, an OSCC, a different kind of thing, really. That's just
right,
but barely 4 weeks.
They're coming up soon too, aren't they?
Yeah. Their first weekend in December, so it was exactly a month from now, basically. And I've seen various stuff flying around about that because I still seem to get all the mailings and copies of things from my previous involvement.
That's nice.
That should. So we will. I've got to confirm this, but it's my intention to have Leo Lobo on the weekend before that, talking about what's on. And also, I mean, James probably could tell me now, although we are on air. But the other person I hope I can get on at the same time is I'm not sure who it is, but somebody is in charge of booking the entertainment. People dealing with, people, musicians.
For OSCC?
Yeah.
That's Joey Obama or Sun Tzu.
Sun Tzu, right? Oh, it is, right, okay. Yep. So hopefully it will be Lear and Sun Tzu who could come on. That way we've got Lear to cover the serious stuff, and Sun Tzu could give us a broad idea of the entertainment.
Yep.
So, but I'll have to approach both of them, so you can approach them too, James, if you to speak to them before I do. Just, it's basically the weekend, the Sunday before the actual thing, which is the easiest thing because everything will be as up to date as it can be before the start. So that's true. But HIE is our fave thing. It's very creative. But lots of twice as much performance as panel, if you see what I mean, almost, and great displays and arts sort of things, and of course the language thing. Spanish, Italian, German and French, unless the languages have changed since I last looked. And each gets a half day, which in effect means an hour, 2 or 3 hours at most.
Don't forget Portuguese and Japanese.
We got
there's 7 languages this year.
7.
Yes, dear.
I did not tell me this.
But actually, if it's well organized, it makes no difference.
Right.
If it's 5 or 7.
That's right.
The thing is that it has to be organized.
Exactly.
It's pretty organized.
For that we have Thyrsa the Brave.
That's right. Onward and upward, definitely.
It's the translations that are the real hard work too, as I know from.
Well, the translations have to be done by the ones that are the translators, not
Our representers, yeah.
I mean, having enough translators and time for each language, and so
yeah,
be
yeah.
coordinating, it always seems to be the
And
you
because in the end it was unfortunately the last times it was so that one has to do 2 or 3 translations even, and that gets difficult, or make drop the translated notes into the corresponding chat that is not your language, like
yeah.
last time I had to do some French translation. I have no idea of French, so it was really
Yeah,
difficult. I just,
It does
follow.
help if you know the language.
Yeah,
that's
I
when I'd be
just
hitting up Chat GPT. Translate
that
this quick.
yeah, well, the translate, that is not the problem. But when you are the one that has to actually drop the notes into the chat of the different languages, and
Hmm.
you are a poor German and have to drop French notes, that is really difficult.
So funny.
And that
Voice.
stuck with that. I got stuck last year, and that has to be better organized. That really are enough people also that are really, what do you say, um, committed to
Disorganized,
do to
out-committed.
do
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because if
yeah.
they don't commit themselves, when imagine James has to do or Pet has to do Japanese translations. I
Yeah.
mean, what the
Yeah.
hell?
As a matter of fact, I do have to do Japanese translation, but fortunately, the nice lady who did the dictation, the narration, sent me a translation,
Oh, okay,
and she sent
okay.
it in English and Japanese and written Japanese.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
It's
That
cr-
is,
it's
yeah,
amazing.
that is perfect. If you have that
Hmm.
as you don't have to talk
Yes,
it. You
yes.
just,
No, no, no,
you
no.
just it's written and it's written one time, and you
Yep,
can
and it
just
goes under
put
the
it.
same film. Everybody gets the same
Yeah,
film. It'll just my job is
but
to try to space it out so that
yeah,
their language their narration coincides with the
yeah.
slides.
But if
Yeah.
you have to do that, for example, in a talk, where
Hmm.
people up there
Yeah.
talking Japanese, and you have to put it down in English. I mean,
That's asking a lot. That's impossible unless you
yeah,
speak at least a
yeah,
little bit of the
yeah,
language. Yeah.
yeah. Or
Hmm.
Yeah.
or if it's spoken in Spanish and you have to put it in Japanese, that is,
Right.
there
Well,
are
also it
combinations
also
that are
is
really hard and that are impossible.
Funny.
it's also the characters they use. So, I mean, when you see these and a few accents over them, but Japanese,
Well,
Chinese, yeah,
I I
Yeah.
it's
I
just
think it's the same if it's Japanese or Dutch or French. If
French or
you don't speak
Italian.
the language, then you can only do as many languages as you have people committed to also act as note
Translators.
droppers.
Right. Hmm. Yeah.
Because if not, you just it was so difficult, and French I don't speak, but I might have a notion more or less, and I could follow somebody else
Yeah.
and it was Italian to French, don't
Hmm.
not less than that, and I could follow someone who made the Italian to English translation. And then
Hmm.
whenever he dropped the note, I could say, that must be mine now too, but it makes you crazy in the head.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, of course, faults are program, so to speak. And I
Mm.
think it's a shame because those talks are very interesting, and the ones of a different language should also understand well what the person up there in front talks.
Yeah, because they put a lot
So,
of effort into their presentations,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they're very rarely dumb. They're always terrific, you know?
Yeah, and if you get it all confused and all late or early, or
Yeah.
then that is a shame.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
I
so
think
that
we've all,
That's why I think only as many translations, as many languages as you have really committed translators and note card droppers.
This would be
that's a good point.
This will be the fourth actual Hypergrid International Expo now coming up, and I think all of us involved to pat ourselves on the back. We've done a very good job getting that kind of thing organised, because there's nothing else being done quite like it. Everything else has been nationally, except it's either been English or something.
Yeah.
Somewhere that we don't know about.
It's like country centric.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on to a better
and I think it's a wonderful event.
It truly is. Yeah, it's nice. It's really nice.
Another event that just occurred to me, isn't the World Fair going on Wolf Territories?
That's
really?
That's in March before HIE.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, they'll be very close together. There's a bit of cross promotion.
Who's putting that on? Who's organizing that?
Oh God, which is that AMV grid? I can't remember. It's on one particular grid, although it is being promoted as a sort of Hypergrid World's Fair. No, it's either Hypergrid or Open Sim World's Fair. But we even had a Safari visit there a couple of weeks ago. It's been built already, so it's going to be pretty massive. The touring bus and everything that people ride around.
All that Landmark Entertainment Group. It says Landmark Entertainment Group is doing it in virtual reality. Oh wait, no, that's old. Never mind. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's different. My bad.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but we've got I think you can you look up World's Fair on Open Sim World. I think they at least are there too. I can't imagine they wouldn't be. But yes, that's in March, which also seemed a very long way when it was first announced. But it's time flies.
Time flies.
So everything on our now. So I think it's about time to wrap up. So I forgive anybody out there who thinks we might have accidentally teleported to the wrong place this week. We are in OpenSim. Oh no, as great as it happens, in our normal studio. We've just sort of broken the barrier in a very subtle way somehow. But I guess we'll be back to our normal limited worldview, called a Hypergrid. Limited indeed.
It's not limited. What are you talking about, Mal?
I'm being cynical. I'm joking. Yeah, maybe
okay. All right.
We'll probably not be focused so much on our cousins next week. We'll wait for them to have an birthday before we mention them again. Okay, interesting topics brought up too, so well worth it. Good chat we've had actually. So it's time to do the wrap. So I'm Mal Burns, of course. I'd like to thank myself for being here, because why not? I'd like to thank my right-hand man on the knobs and the voices, particularly today. He's welcome in the discussion. James Atlloud. Welcome, James. Oh, goodbye, James. Goodbye, James.
Well, hello to you too, Mal.
Thank you, James.
You bet.
And thank you, of course, to Tosha Ryran, my co-host here. Thank you, Tosha.
Well, thank you for having us.
Pleasure, always. Thank you for coming, for making it. And look after yourself. And thanks, of course, to joining us for this is a regular person on this show, really, Pet Love Pet Shop. So thanks, Pet.
Thank you, Mal. The pleasure.
And with that, we will also say goodbye this week, a sad goodbye to all the strange props lying around on the stage that are meant to somehow have something to do with something called Halloween, the best forgotten, I think. So until next week,
we'll make the stage tidy again.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, prim and proper. That's what we got to have here. No more of this anarchy.
Naked witches over your shoulder. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. That lovely witch is on it. She's the vision of the sleeping person underneath.
Yeah.
You see, it's so contextual. Those two together is meant to have meaning. Seriously.
Okay, Mal.
It's meant to have meaning. Anyway.
Yeah.
So, as I say, we're off. Wish you all a very good morning, a very good afternoon, a very good evening, or indeed a good tomorrow, depending on wherever and whenever you are. And It's a wrap.